Well, I'm still a bit vocal on the Prince Andrew story. I don't think what he's done just recently, even though he was summoned by the Queen and then stripped of his royal duties, I don't think by stepping down that's enough. And I'm pretty sure that if you'd been abused, you would want much more closure than that, and you'd want some kind of justice for everything that you've gone through. So I don't think that that's enough. But I just now want to turn my attention to Prince Andrew the man, because I believe that his behaviour throughout this is that of a sociopath. He didn't feel any pain or anything, did he, until it affected him. And now I believe that because the charities have withdrawn their funds and they want his name dropped, I believe he's feeling the pain. And he's feeling the pain, obviously, because of the hurt that he's caused his mother, the Queen, and all the royal family. But his behaviour up to that point was purely selfish. It was purely damage limitation and to protect his interest. And he never, ever showed a side of him that was true empathy. The empathy of being able to put himself in the exact situation of what those girls were in. He wasn't even able to do that. And his ex-partner, when she tweeted that Andrew was a giant of a man, I mean, she didn't even want to know about what the girls had gone through either. If she thought for 1 minute that those girls were telling the absolute truth, she wouldn't have made such a ridiculous tweet as that on Twitter. How foolish will she feel now for saying what a giant of a man he is? And yet, as we know, the bigger you are, or the higher you are in life, the greater the fall. And so this has happened to a world elite. But there are many elites. I mean, there are higher, much more higher elites than the royals. But these are the global elites. These are the ones that are effectively the ones that you really do have to worry about. So he's not going to get his allowance. I think he would probably get about 275,000 from the Queen immediately, but then he gets all his houses, he gets everything else, and he gets his protection that he's been... You have to have protection as a royal. If you didn't, then you'd be an easy target. So will that continue? Because he is still a target. He's still a member of the royal family, admittedly, just disgraced at this point. But this can't be the end of the matter, because this is just not acceptable. He said that he will now help, but it's almost like he's saying, and this is like a veiled attempt to help, and he's more or less saying he'll help if he has to. Why not just turn around and say, I want to do everything I possibly can in my powers to assist? He doesn't use words like that. He doesn't use words where he wants to make a bridge. He's not using that kind of terminology. He's using damage limitation, and he's a very, very see-through person. Perhaps he's always been like that. He's always been the party prince, as we know. And in the 80s, you could get away with treating people the way that he's recently treated those girls. And who's to say that he's not done this on hundreds of occasions? This is just what we know about now. We don't really know what's happened, do we, after he divorced from Sarah Ferguson. You know, he may have gone on the rampant... he may have led a life of, well... I won't go into it too much at this stage because we can't prove it. But I want to get back to this sociopath personality, which I believe he has. We know exactly what a sociopath is, don't we? We're all familiar with the fact that they feel nothing at all unless it affects them as a person, and then they feel some pain. But that pain that they feel is for themselves and not for the other person. So that's really what a classic sociopath is. And we have many examples of killers throughout history who have demonstrated that quality. But you can have that personality trait, and I think a reason, a contributing factor for why a person of his stature would have become a sociopath is because... as a royal, and when he's in royal duties and royal assignments, he has to keep his feelings in check all the time. he can't be seen to be demonstrative and to show all these quite normal personality traits that we all have. And so I believe that when he was befriended, I believe that Andrew felt as if he could just let his hair down, so to speak, and he could just be what he wanted to be, away from, the public duties and responsibilities of being the Queen's second son. And so I think he was naive in the aspect that somebody conniving and somebody that had an underground reason for befriending him, and Andrew wasn't able to pick up on that at that time. I believe that Andrew liked also not just to have that friendship with somebody that was, on the edge, and I think he liked the danger of it all. He wanted to be in his circle. He was an exciting fella. That's what everybody keeps saying. Epstein was he was a magnetic personality, and he drew everybody in. And I believe that Andrew liked that idea of having a friend that was so dangerous, so razor sharp in a lot of ways, and so different from his normal royal life, which really is humdrum and boring. And I think it was just him able to believe that he could be behind closed doors with the world's elite, and there are names that will come out as to who else was involved in this. And if you really want to get the lowdown on this, you must listen to Sean Atwood, because he's been doing about 50 or 60 videos on the Prince. And he's very good. He's a good researcher, good reporter. And he's not one of those sensationalist reporters. He only reports on the facts as he gets them. So I encourage anybody to look at Sean Atwood or subscribe to him on YouTube. He's brilliant at this kind of thing. And it's just a short summary, really, of how I feel about the world's elite. And I have this vain hope, and it is only a vain hope at this stage, that the veil is being lifted from us all, that we're suddenly seeing established people in life and those that are at the pinnacle of life. I call these the upper echelon of the global elite. We're suddenly seeing that these people are making mistakes. Yes, they will try their best to cover them up, but the fact that we're actually seeing them make mistakes, and this is just one mistake, eventually I believe that others will follow. We'll see other mistakes from other global elites. And that will now bring me to a new point, that what really separates the global elites from the peasants? I'm sorry to refer to us as peasants, but I think for the sake of putting this point across, it's easier to. But the global elites have virtually always done what they wanted to do and trampled on whoever they've wanted to trample on to get to the top. And so they've amassed their fortunes, billions and billions. But what happens if you take that wealth away from them? What happens if there's a world economic collapse and their currency, their dollar or their pound or whatever, their euro, becomes worthless and so can't buy them privilege anymore? And what happens then? Will they no longer be at the top? Will they no longer be the top echelon anymore if they don't have that money? And will a new type of person who comes across and survives in this new type of environment where money is not everything, money is no longer God, but will there be a new type of person that rises to the top? Like this, the survival of the fittest. Because the prepping organisations in the world, Preppers UK, Preppers United States, have been predicting for some time now that this is where it's going, that there is going to be a collapse at the top level and that currency the world over will be rendered worthless. I don't know what you think about that, people. I don't know if you've got an opinion about that, but that's an interesting fact, that really it is only the having of money that separates us. But you take away that wealth, and then it will be every man, woman and child for themselves. And that is a startling fact to consider, if that is where it's going.